Welcome back to News Around, where privacy, papered-over smiles, and the small fissures of public life are examined with rigorous curiosity. If you appreciate careful reporting and honest interpretation, please like this video, subscribe, and consider clicking the join button to support our independent investigations. Your engagement matters. Comment below with who you want us to cover next, and help this community stay connected. Their relationship did not burst forth as tabloid fodder overnight. Rather, it unfurled gradually, scripted by chance encounters and long conversations in the margins of filmmaking. On the set of a 2014 comedy, two performers discovered a rare resonance, an ease of exchange, a cadence of laughter, and an intimacy of gaze that suggested more than mere professional cordiality. Observers at the time noted how frequently the pair lingered in conversation off-camera, how they would exchange private jokes between takes, and how those fleeting moments accumulated into a public fascination. What followed was predictable in one sense and singular in another. Press coverage intensified, social media aggregated every affectionate tableau, and audiences began to imagine a narrative that transcended the frames of film and television. Yet for Barış and Gupse, the relationship evolved on quieter terms, measured commitments, modest celebrations, and a preference for intimacy away from the glare of publicity. Their marriage, solemnized in an understated ceremony in 2020, reflected that ethos, a compact gathering of loved ones rather than a public spectacle. The arrival of their daughter in 2022 deepened the couple's private commitments and reframed their public persona as a small family unit rather than a celebrity spectacle. By the middle of 2025, perceptive fans began to observe an important change. The couple's shared visibility on social platforms diminished substantially. Where once occasional photographs, collaborative posts, and mutual tagging punctuated their profiles, silence replaced signals. In contemporary celebrity culture, such withdrawal often provokes speculation. Yet it would be reductive to equate reduced public performance with the abrupt collapse of an intimate relationship. Friends and sources within their circle, though understandably cautious in sharing details, offer a contrasting portrait. What looks like distance to an outside observer may be, in actuality, the result of rigidly scheduled shoots, long-distance project commitments, and the logistical demands of parenting. For many high-profile couples, privacy becomes a strategic practice, a protective architecture that resists commodification. Thus, the lack of staged affection does not inexorably indicate discord. Rather, it frequently indicates a deliberate rerouting of emotional life away from public consumption. One recurrent theme among commentators has been the criminally simple misreading of screen intimacy. When a performer embraces dramatic or romantic roles, a subset of viewers translates those portrayals into autobiographical evidence. In recent months, Barış's work has required him to inhabit characters whose relational intensity might look, in photographic stills or viral clips, as if they reflect offset reality. This conflation is both tempting and false. Colleagues emphasize that on-set proximity functions under a contractual and performative logic. Emotional authenticity is a tool rather than an index of private intention. That said, public perception is rarely satisfied by such a distinction. When the actor casually engages with an Instagram post by his spouse, a small digital like or a brief emoji, ardent followers rush to grant it symbolic weight. In the court of social media, these gestures are treated as legal precedents, and the narrative self-corrects accordingly. A like becomes proof, a lack of comment becomes proof to the contrary. Gupse's media persona has often been characterized by a deft humor, a posture that combines disarming jokes with a refusal to dramatize private life. In interviews and talk show appearances, She deploys levity when asked about marriage and domestic arrangements, an approach that some interpret as flippancy and others read as principled boundary setting. What is important here is to acknowledge comedy's functional role. It deflects prying, it normalizes questions that might otherwise become invasive, and it signals a preference for controlling narrative tone rather than content. Those close to the couple interpret Gupse's laughter as tactical, not dismissive. The couple's private communication, they insist, is not performed for cameras. It is maintained in speech, gesture, and the quotidian negotiations of raising a child. Humor, then, is a medium of defense, not an admission of fracture. Central to any honest account is the presence of their child, the existence of which compels a specific logic of responsibility. Raising a toddler complicates schedules, compresses free time, and reshapes priorities in ways that habitually escape the attention of social media commentators. Sources report that parenting routines, educational choices, and home stability occupy the couple's primary energies. Disagreements arise, as they do in every family, but those are described by insiders as functional rather than catastrophic. Conversations that are resolved, boundaries that are negotiated, and a mutual insistence on a drama-free domestic environment. It is precisely this orientation, a family-centric, low-drama repair culture, that renders public speculation both hurtful and inaccurate. When a relationship is protected intentionally, the world of clicks and comments tends to misinterpret the protective reticence as evidence of deterioration. Online discourse reveals a split that is instructive. Some fans are inclined to conspiratorial interpretation, parsing each social media omission as meaningful. Others favor a more charitable reading, citing mutual support signals and long-term investment. The comment sections oscillate between derision and defense. Yet the most revealing aspect of this erupts less from the couple themselves and more from observers' own expectations, a desire to possess intimate certainty about people one has never met. That very desire fuels a feedback loop wherein silence begets rumor, rumor begets coverage, and coverage consolidates the narrative as if it were fact. This is the mechanism by which private life is pulled inexorably into public theater. After careful consideration of public records, observed gestures, and sourced testimony, the reasonable, evidence-based conclusion is simple and unsensational. There is no verified proof of separation. No official declaration, no legal filings, no unequivocal testimony from the couple indicates the collapse of their marriage. What is apparent instead is a practiced privatization of domestic life, overlapping professional pressures, and a protective disposition toward their child's upbringing. In short, the most probable explanation for the recent quietude is not dissolution but strategic withdrawal. The absence of performative affection in public spaces does not equal the absence of affection in private spaces. If you follow this couple closely, what is your perspective? Do you believe that celebrities owe more public explanation about their private lives, or do you think privacy should remain inviolable? Share your views in the comments below. And if you value investigative nuance over rumor, please subscribe to Newsaround, click the join button to support our non-sensational reporting, and tap the bell so you never miss an evidence-based deep dive. This episode reveals more about our collective habits than about any individual couple. The appetite for certainty, for concluding narratives, collides inevitably with the complexity of human relationships. Here we must choose between two kinds of literacy. The literacy of rumor and the literacy of context. The former gratifies quickly, the latter requires patience and restraint. Barış and Gupse's story, born under studio lights, matured in private rooms, and temporarily quiet on social feeds, resists the simplistic gestures of viral storytelling. It invites a more humane response, respect for boundaries, skepticism toward sensationalism, and compassion for families who choose privacy in a world that monetisizes exposure. Thank you for joining this extended report. If you found this analysis clarifying, help us expand the conversation by liking, sharing, and subscribing to News Around. Consider pressing the join button to support longer-form, careful storytelling. Tell us in the comments which Turkish figures you want us to investigate next, and whether you prefer deeper analysis or quick updates. We read everything. Until next time, keep asking questions, insist on evidence, and remember: silence in celebrity profiles is rarely the whole story.